was always the Jags.
Always the Jags.
Welcome into Always the Jags. We have some terrible, horrifying breaking news to drop on this episode. Usually I don't even record on the weekends, but I had to because of what we all, Jaguars fans, all just found out. Our star player, the one that we traded up to multiple picks to go get, Travis Hunter, is now on injured reserve. Travis Hunter is on injured reserve. That means he will miss at least the next 4 games, right as Brenton Strange was scheduled to potentially come back after missing 4 games of his own. Now, obviously, this is huge news, and it's going to hugely affect the rest of our season. So we're going to break it down and talk about the negatives from it and what we can do in the meantime and what it's going to mean for our season. So let's talk about the biggest issues that are obviously going to come about. Obviously, this is a terrible blow to our offense and our defense because Travis Hunter is not only our best receiver, he's also our best cornerback. And this is partly why people were, not mixed on drafting him, but that was the chatter about drafting him and drafting a 2-way star. Like, if he's so good and you end up relying on him to anchor your defense and your offense, if he gets hurt, well, he's out. Now your offense and your defense suffers a huge blow. Instead of when a player gets hurt, only one part of your team gets a huge blow. So it is a massive, massive hurting. And this is exactly, it kind of feels like exactly what everybody was warning the Jaguars about when they drafted him. This is exactly the knock on him. This is exactly the thing that's like, oh, maybe Travis Hunter, I'm not going to say he isn't the guy, but it's going to be hard to always rely on him because if he gets hurt again, and because he's playing both ways, it only increases the chances of him getting hurt. And this was a non-contact football injury. So already, James Gladstone's big move, the thing that defined his tenure as a GM, already looks like if there were people that were already doubting whether it was working before, they're going to be doubting it like crazy now. And it's the worst time possible for the injury to happen because through the first, half of the season, most people were kind of mixed on Travis Hunter. Like, he made some good plays, but most people still think the Jaguars didn't make a good move. But he was starting to reach that breakout point. He was starting to reach that point where the Jaguars realized he is the best cornerback. He is the best wide receiver we have. We need to play him both ways full time and see what he can go do. Instead of kind of easing him in, we don't have time to ease it. We just got to put him out there. And he was in the midst of potentially have a very strong 4-game stretch here. And now that's not going to happen, right? Because he's going to miss these next 4 games. Now he'll come back. Unfortunately, again, we kind of get some soft parts of our schedule coming up. Fortunately, our next team is the Raiders. We don't really get into the meat of the softest part of our schedule until after the Texans and the Chargers. Then we get the Cardinals, Titans, Colts at home, I believe, and then the Jets at the Jaguars. All of those could be 4 straight wins, right? And it would be beautiful to have Travis Hunter to navigate the tougher parts. But we won't have him for those games. So that's the negative, right? Obviously, if this is a sign of things to come, like, he's only on injured reserve. He's not out for the year. So let's start there. Our season is not necessarily over, right? But he's not out for the year, right? And he can still come back, and he can come back even stronger, and he can pick up where he left off. Or he could come back and never be the same. Or this could just be a sign of how tentative it is to build your offense and your defense around the same player. So there's a lot of mixed emotions on this. I still think it was worth the gamble. But again, the hard part is, like, right now when you look at the players who are the rookies that we could have had, because again, had we drafted Takk McMillan, he probably would have been the number 1 guy already based upon what he's done in Carolina. Big body type, and a lot of those, I don't know if those balls that people were dropping, a lot of those inerrant passes by Trevor, it kind of feels like Takk McMillan would have just sucked them in, right? He would have just pulled those right in because he's got that big frame and he's got those big hands. And then if you look at the second round pick that we gave away, the Cardinals took Will Johnson. And right now, Will Johnson's one of the highest graded cornerbacks in the entire league. And I thought he was going to be a fantastic prospect. He's who I wanted us to get in the beginning of the first round. No, I had no idea he would last all the way to the second round, and that's because of injury concerns. Well, guess who's playing and who's not? Will Johnson is playing, Travis Hunter isn't. And so it's tough because, Travis Hunter is the best wide receiver and cornerback on our team. But in order for this trade to make sense, he kind of would need to be the best wide receiver and cornerback of the draft. And coming into the draft, I highly believe that he was. Like, people said he's a better receiver than T-Mac, and he's a better cornerback than Will Johnson, at least production-wise. But right now, both those guys are playing better. And again, if you could have told me that we could have had them both in hindsight, but again, I don't know if GMs thought that Will Johnson was going to drop to the second round. It's hard to look at that. I do think it was worth having Travis Hunter this year rather than waiting till next year to draft a corner because our cornerback room needed help. So a lot of guys are going to have to step up. There are some big-time receivers we're going to face. Fortunately, not really in this next game that we have, but in the Texans game, in the Chargers game, and even in the Cardinals game. Marvin Harrison Jr., he's taken some time to come on, but he's not going to stay with that low production forever. He can hurt you if he really wants to. So that's the rough part, right? Also, Eric Murray went on injured reserve, which is a huge blow to our secondary because now, starting at safety, we have Andrew Wingard, who is starting to show some cracks in his play, and we'll have Antonio Johnson backing him up because Caleb Branshaw hasn't hit the field yet. Meanwhile, Xavier Watts, the guy that we passed on to take Caleb Branshaw, has been making play after play for the Falcons. So it's kind of bringing some question marks into James Gladstone's drafting. Again, only time will tell, but again, if you could have, there's no reason in my mind that you couldn't have had Xavier Watts and Caleb Branshaw if you really liked him. And right now, Xavier Watts is starting for the Falcons and thriving. I would have felt a lot better if we had Xavier Watts, and either if this thrust him into the starting lineup or if he was already in the starting lineup and now Andrew Wingard had to come in to back up behind Eric Murray. But that's the point where we are now. We just lost two huge blows in our secondary. Now, and again, around the league, everybody's getting hurt. I mean, I don't know if there are more injuries this year than usual, but, obviously the 49ers had already lost Bosa. The Chargers had already lost Slater. Players are just dropping all around the league. Another big-time player just got hurt, and I can't really think of his name, but I kind of dashed the hope of one team. Players are getting hurt. It's just, and the more they increase the safety protocols, like, players still just continue to get hurt. Brock Purdy has played 4 games this year. Carson Wentz is out for the year now again. Who knows if J.J. McCarthy's going to end up coming back. The only team that's managed to be healthy this entire year is like the Colts, and it's fueling their magical season. Well, I think they've had some secondary injuries, but their offense continues to roll. So, next point, because again, and I think when Brenton Strange comes back, I think people are going to remember that in Liam Coen's offense, Brenton Strange, I'll say it, in Liam Coen's offense, Brenton Strange is far more important than Travis Hunter. And I don't think our offense is necessarily going to get better, but we're going to see it be more efficient. It's going to do more of what they want to do when Brenton Strange gets back out there because he's the most reliable pass catcher and he can block his mind off. And when he's in the game, he confuses defenses. You don't know if it's a run or a pass because he can do both. And so Brenton Strange to me is still the straw that stirs the drink in this offense. And if you look at the numbers, it's weird because Trevor has like better numbers, quote unquote, in the offense since Brenton Strange's been out. But the running game has suffered so badly since him getting out. So like Trevor Lawrence was slowly starting to pick up the passing game, but then as soon as Brenton Strange got taken out of that, the running game couldn't get anything going. And that made Trevor have to pass even more, right? So once we see Brenton Strange come back, which I don't know if he's going to be back in the Raiders game, but he should definitely be back for the Texans game, we'll see that balance again, and I think we'll see our offense be the way it needs to be. Now, again, for me, I had the Jaguars making the playoffs this season. Not a lot of people did. So my thoughts going in now, let's look at the schedule, right? Let's look at the schedule to see exactly what we have. With or without Travis Hunter, I still think the Jaguars can beat the Raiders. I still think it. I think Devin Lloyd is coming back. He's going to be in the lineup again. Jerry Jones has shown a lot of great things in the preseason. In the regular season, he didn't show as much. Hopefully getting benched will help him kind of pick up the pace, especially, but even on special teams. He was the one that had the block in the back that got Parker Washington's punt return call back against LA. But anyway, with him in the lineup, I think he'll be able to do some things. Again, the Raiders don't have that big time receiver. The thing that we'll have to cue in is Brock Bowers. And I think that matchup of Devin Lloyd versus Brock Bowers, I think we can have faith in Devin Lloyd to handle Brock Bowers based upon the play that he's given us this year, even in single coverage, right? And so I think that will allow us, if Devin Lloyd, like if he's shadowing Brock Bowers, I think that's a matchup that we can use, right? And I think the receivers on the outside, I think our guys are good enough to kind of jam them off their line while we wait for our defensive line to hopefully get some pressure. I don't know how much longer Trayvon Walker's going to have to keep wearing that club, but clearly he is a different pass rusher without it. So hopefully he can get that off soon. Like I said, people are getting hurt all around the league. We're not immune to injuries. Injuries derailed our last 2 seasons, and uh, we can keep it from derailing this season. The true good metal of a team is what do you do after you start losing some of those stars, and that's what we're going to find out. Can Liam Coen get these guys going? Next couple of games, in order to stay in the playoff race, a lot of people have said the Jaguars kind of need to go 3-1 in this next stretch versus the Raiders, Texans, Chargers, and Cardinals. I think we can go 2-2 and be all right. We can go 2-2 and be all right. Right now we're 4-3. The Texans are really starting to put it all together. If they lose to the Broncos this week, we have a much better chance of beating them because I think if the Texans lose to the Broncos, that would be the end of their season because they would have too many losses to overcome. They still have to play the Colts twice. But if the Texans beat the Broncos, then when the Jaguars come to our stadium, the Texans will know if we beat the Jaguars, we'll both be tied at 5-4, assuming the Jaguars win today against the Raiders, which if we lose to the Raiders, our season is over. But again, we need to beat the Raiders and remember that our season is not over. I had us beating the Chargers before the season, and the Chargers have been so up and down, like beating teams like the Chiefs and then losing to the Giants. But again, you could tell it's Joe Alt. Without Joe Alt, the Chargers can hardly beat anybody. But with Joe Alt, they're a powerhouse. He makes such a big difference because if you can neutralize a team's best pass rusher one-on-one, that strengthens your entire offensive line. And that's what Joe Alt does. And this is without Rashawn Slater. And so I think the Jaguars may end up dropping that game to the Chargers. Chargers are a great team. And without Travis Hunter, now I'm kind of feeling like, man, that's going to be a tough game to win. I don't know if we'll be able to pull it off. So if we lose that one, I think we can still go into the desert, into Phoenix for the Cardinals, and I think we can still win there. I think we'll definitely have Brenton Strange back. I think a strong running game will help keep the Cardinals off balance. The Cardinals it's like they have a good team on paper. They just haven't been able to put it all together. And you can't really put your finger on it. But if we can go in there and we can win, we can keep our season alive. That's 2-2, right? If we lose to the Texans and the Chargers, we beat the Raiders and the Cardinals. Now we're looking at Travis Hunter coming back. We would currently be 6-5 in the season. And 6-5 is meddling, but we have a good chance the Cardinals can start us off on a little win streak, right? If we're able to beat the Titans, which we have to be able to, there's no option to make the playoffs if we don't sweep the Titans, right? So we got to beat the Titans. That'll get us to 7-5. The Colts will be coming to Everbank. Now, the Colts are going to be tough, even at the stadium. I think the Colts are looking to break the streak this year. I think we still have the mettle to split with the Colts. Travis Hunter will be back, maybe in full swing. Maybe these 4 games will give Brian Thomas Jr. a chance to get out of that funk, right? But if we're able to beat the Colts, now we're 8-5. Jets, got to be able to beat them. December 14th, that's got to be a win. Now we're 9-5, right? And then we've got 3 games left on the season. Broncos, Colts, Titans. If we lose to the Broncos and the Colts and we beat the Titans, we'd be 10-7. I don't know if that's good enough to get us into the playoffs. If the Chiefs go 10-7, we would have the tiebreaker over them. That's why it kind of hurts that our game against the Chargers is right here in our schedule and couldn't have been like a little earlier while Joe Alt was hurt and while we had Travis Hunter. Because if Joe Alt was hurt and we had Travis Hunter, I would say that we could beat the Chargers. But that wildcard spot might come between us and the Chargers, right? But if we end this season at 9-8 or 10-7, even 11-6 would be fantastic. But if we end this season at 9-8 or 10-7 with a winning record, we can feel good and like we're headed in the right place. It wouldn't be as good as making the playoffs, right? And making that pick make way more sense by pushing it down into the late teens, early 20s. But we can at least feel a lot better with Liam Coen and the direction of this team because we won a lot of games that we weren't thinking we were going to with the 49ers and with the Chiefs. Those are two games we weren't expecting to win. And I think originally this year I had us sweeping the Titans and the Colts. I don't think we're going to end up sweeping both of them. We'll probably end up just sweeping the Titans. But again, we have to sweep the Titans. It's not an option to do that anymore. So with a lot of these games, I would love to sweep the Texans, obviously, but without Travis Hunter, that's going to be hard to do. But now again, if the Texans do lose, that could end their season. So what does all this mean for James Gladstone? Well, I think James Gladstone has a couple of moves that he can make that I wanted him to make that now with Travis Hunter being gone, he needs to make. If we're going to beat the Cardinals, he needs to make these moves. Now, I don't know who the Cardinals play this week. And if they lose, they might be headed towards asset and rebuilding because the fans don't really know if they want Kyler Murray or Jacoby Brissett. That would open up the door for us to bring Calais Campbell back home. Calais Campbell should have been our target in free agency the last 2 years. He's put up more production than Eric Armstead in that time at half the cost. And he's the perfect mentor for Trayvon Walker. But for some reason, we didn't go get him. The numbers didn't make sense. He visited us. We still didn't sign him on Trent Baalke. James Gladstone can correct that mistake by sending a fifth to the Cardinals to bring Calais Campbell back home. I know he probably feels like his home is in Arizona. It's really in Jacksonville. If you want to do anything this year, let's bring back the mayor of Jacksonville. Calais Campbell, to me, is the most available and the best defensive tackle that we could go get. Someone mentioned Zach Seiler on the Dolphins. Meh. Calais Campbell is the guy, right? Because, again, the mentorship that he provides, I think he's going to turn Trayvon Walker into a stud. And I've been saying that for the past 3 years now. Bring back Calais Campbell. I literally cried when we traded him. Okay, I didn't really cry, but I wanted to when we traded him away because he was the heart and soul of that defense. And now he doesn't, if he comes back, he'll still be the heart and soul of this defense, right? And again, with the injuries we've sustained, he's a guy that we need to come in that can maybe play a little bit more while Trayvon Walker is recovering. And he can play inside and outside. So he can cover whatever spots that we're missing. Next move. I had said it earlier. I'm going to say it again. Now it's even more vital. Jacoby Myers. We need to go trade Jacoby Myers from the Raiders. Once we go into Vegas tomorrow and beat the Raiders, we need to fly home with Jacoby Myers. Because if we're able to go in and beat the Raiders, the trade obviously won't happen before the game. If we go in, we beat the Raiders, they'll understand their season is over. They need assets for the future. Some of those guys want out. Jacoby Myers is one of them. I'd offer a fifth, maybe even a fourth, but I think a fifth should get it done. A fifth should definitely get it done based upon his production and his contract. Give Trevor another short-handed weapon who can fit into Liam Coen's offense, play in the slot, and let Parker Washington play outside while we wait for Travis Hunter to come back. And this is also a good way that we can really evaluate Trevor Lawrence because Jacoby Myers doesn't really drop the ball. So now we can really establish, okay, is our guys just dropping the ball around him or is Trevor Lawrence the problem? Because right now we don't really know, right? We don't really know because Trevor's had so many drops from guys dropping the ball that we can't really get a fair or accurate assessment of whether or not Trevor's the guy or not because everybody's dropping the ball. So let's go get Jacoby Myers. So that's the wish list. Jacoby Myers, Calais Campbell. Obviously, some safety help would be great. A lot of teams don't make moves for 3 different players in a year. I mean, the 49ers did. I don't know if the Jaguars view themselves. I think this is the kind of move that James Gladstone needs to make because the Jaguars players need to view themselves as contenders. And like if James Gladstone makes the moves that contenders make, that will bleed over into the team because Liam Coen has this team feeling like they're contenders, right? And the more that we get beyond it, it's amazing how different 5-2 would feel right now compared to 4-3. Because 5-2 still feels like everything's in front of you. It feels like the Texans aren't really a threat. 5-3 feels like, yeah, we got this. We're still going to make the playoffs. We still got, even this loss. So that first of all, horrible penalty on the Bengals, but that loss to the Bengals is going to hurt. It's going to sting for a long time because again, being 5-2 right now feels entirely different. But we're not. We're 4-3. So those are the moves that I would make for us to weather the storm with Travis Hunter being gone. I don't know if I would necessarily bring in another cornerback. I don't think there's someone out there that could really, really help us because with some positions, it's like if they're available, there's a reason for it, and you don't want to. There's no like guy I would give up like a second rounder for, there's no guy. Yeah, there's no guy that I would want that badly, right? Antonio Johnson can play in the slot a little bit, so maybe have Jordan Lewis go back outside, let Antonio Johnson play the slot. And maybe let Greg Newsome play across from him because Jordan Lewis has some number one cornerback experience, and that might help mitigate some of the things that we're going through. But either way, this is where we're at right now. It's time for our younger guys, Jerry and Jones, to step up. I said before the season, I think Jerry and Jones is going to take Tyson Campbell's starting spot. Tyson Campbell already has a couple of interceptions, a fumble recovery, forced fumble, and a touchdown for the Browns in 2 games. And, what has Greg Newsome done? Except, give up that big touchdown to JSN. Now, Tyson Campbell got burned too by DK Metcalf, but you see the point. It's like you can't have one guy balling out, over in Cleveland and Greg Newsome not doing much over here. So hopefully this bye week, Greg Newsome has really gotten integrated into our defense. And hopefully and again, the Browns were playing the Dolphins, but still, that counts. So let me know your thoughts on Travis Hunter's injury. Do you think the Jaguars still have a chance to salvage the season? I think we do. I think there's a couple moves that James Gladstone needs to make. And I think when Travis Hunter comes back, again, having Jacoby Myers in there, that'll make that offense really, really pop, in my opinion. And I think that's, especially with him being on injured reserve, because that means we can bring in another player. So because of that, those are 2 moves that I would like to see us make. Go bring Calais Campbell back home. You will be immortalized as a Jaguars GM if you bring Calais back. And let's go get Jacoby Myers. You really think the Cardinals aren't going to send over Calais Campbell for a 5th? Right? Same thing with and he's still producing. And same thing with the Raiders for Jacoby Myers. Like, what are they going to do this year? Right? So it sucks. It's hard. It's tough. Not a fan. Obviously, this move is gonna end up defining the Jaguars for I feel like a long time. This injury to Travis Hunter and how the rest of his career goes. But for right now, let's stay optimistic. Let's stay optimistic. We still got a lot of winnable games left on our schedule. We still got a lot of football left to play, and it all starts with Trevor Lawrence. If he wants to, he can go out and win these games that we've got. He can go out there and do it. We just got to see him do it. So let me know your thoughts, and never forget, it's always the Jags. Thank you so much for watching Always the Jags. Make sure you like and subscribe down below. Check out some of these other videos that I'm sure you'll be interested in as we chase Duval greatness. Thank you for joining us again, and until next time.